Hey, this is Professor Homa. Welcome to part 2 of WD01, our first exercise. And in the first part, I just went over kind of downloading the files and just some of the basics, looking at the files. We didn't really do a whole lot with it yet. This is the PDF file. This is the example that we're going to follow. Also, a couple things I didn't mention on the first one is we're going to be adding space before each heading here. There's going to be 12-point space before, and this one is going to have a little less because it's only a subheading. This one here is going to have 6-point space before. And then that's going to repeat as we go on. So that's what we're going to be doing. I'm going to minimize that. I'm going to get back to my Word file that I had just started. Now, I actually did step 1, step 2, and step 3 from the instructions that you're given. So we're going to be moving on to step 4. Step 3 was select all and make it 12-point Cambria. Step 4 is an easy one. That's just selecting this line here. Notice I don't have to highlight through this whole line like this with my cursor. I can go outside here with this arrow and just highlight that paragraph. And also, one thing to point out here is I have my show hide button turned on. Now when I turn it off, I don't see some of the little symbols there. When I turn this on, I see where my paragraphs are and I see where my tabs are. These little arrows in here are tabs, and these returns here are paragraph returns, and that means they're paragraphs. And that's important because when we set our tab will jump to where we put it's going to be. We will not do things like this. If you're in the habit of ever doing this and tabbing things over to where they're supposed to be, don't do that. We're going to get out of that habit and we're going to set one single tab of where it's supposed to be. Also, if you ever did this, or if you ever saw anyone doing this, we're not going to do anything like that. We're not going to, when we set tabs with leaders, we're not going to be hitting periods like that. We're actually going to be setting tabs that actually have a leader on it, and I'll show you how to do it. And I'll put my tab character back in here. So there's tab characters in here. That's what these are. There's returns. Okay, and we're going to be formatting them as we continue with our exercise. So anyway, back to number 4 here. I highlight this, and notice this thing pops up if you're in Windows. This is a little kind of mini formatting toolbar here, which you can do things like change it to red, which we're going to do, and you can also make it bold, and you can make it 18 point. So I'm doing it with this little mini toolbar here. I could have also done that all up here in my Home tab. I could have used this little thing to make it red. I could have used that to make it bold, and I could have changed my font here. So, you know, either place. If you see that pop up, you can do that. Even if you right click on here, it'll pop up as well. So anyway, that's my first bit of formatting, and that's called character formatting because whatever I did there, I could do with just one character. I can change the color, I can change the font, and I can change the style. That's all we did with that right now, and that's number 4. Number 5, we're going to do some paragraph formatting, and it says highlight word processing through text only. So that's this here, and I'm going to go down through text only. Now keep in mind, based on our sample, you know, that's this part here. Now there's some different formatting that's going on here, but that's okay because we're going to do something that they all share, which is a tab. So back to here, my first part that I have here, and what it's going to ask me to do in 5, it's going to say to set a tab. Now to do that, you can do it on the ruler here, but I'll show you this way. You're going to go to your paragraph dialog box launcher, this little button here, and you're going to go down to the bottom and you're going to choose tabs. And when I click tabs, it'll open up this little tabs window here. And I'll move this over. And what I'm going to do with this tabs windows, I'm just going to type in 5, not 0.5 but 5 inches, and also it's going to be a right tab, meaning everything's going to align on the right, and it's not going to have any leader, but we eventually will put some leaders in here. So that's what this means here. And I'm going to do 2 things. I'm going to hit set. Now when I set it, it shows up in your list of tabs. So if you had a whole bunch of tabs that were set, you'll see them down in this list. Also, just to point out, when you need to edit a tab, if I wanted this to be a left instead, I'd select this one and change it to be left. I'm going to put it back to right, but make sure that when you're editing tabs, you edit them from down in the list below here, not up here. Okay, so I set that, and I'm going to hit OK. And you could set it again, but that's the tab right here. It's a right tab, there's no leader, I already hit set, I'm going to hit OK. The only time set is really that important is when you have multiple tabs, so that it differentiates between all the tabs. So anyway, I'll hit OK. Okay, what it did is it took that tab character and it aligned the very first tab. It rewrote all the default tabs that were at every ½ inch, and it put now a right tab, and you can see it here on the ruler. There's my tab that's showing up there, and we'll be able to edit from there eventually. Okay, now another thing that we're going to do here, let me just check my instructions. We set a tab with right alignment, and we hit OK, and that's all I had to do for number 5. Then what it says at number 6 is highlight word processing software line. That's our heading line here. And this one we're going to do a couple things. We're going to make it bold, because it says to make it bold. Okay, and it says make a space before. Now to make a space before, we are not going to do this. You're not just going to hit returns like I know some of you have done in the past. We're not going to do that. What we are going to do is in this paragraph, and you just have to have, for paragraph formatting, you just have to have your cursor in here. Or you could highlight it like that. And I'm going to go again to my paragraph dialog box launcher, and I'm going to give it a space before of 12. Now when I hit OK, you'll see that what that's going to do. It's going to put about 12 points before that paragraph. Wherever there's a paragraph, it'll put those points before it. Okay? And that's all we have to do with that part. For number 7, we moved on from number 6. For number 7, it says highlight Word 2007 through the pages line. So that's the end of this kind of first mini section here. I'm going to highlight this, and it says to give it a 0.25 left indent. Now you could do this one of two ways. You can go up here to your ruler and you can move your indent. Now if you're not comfortable with this, I'll show you a different way, but if you select the bottom little box, there's like a top arrow, bottom arrow, and a little box, you can move this over, and what it'll do is it'll indent your text a 1/4 inch. Now if you're not comfortable doing that yet, you could just do this. You could go to your paragraph dialog box launcher where we hit our tabs and go here to indentation. This little section here we'll be able to do all our indents, left indent, right indent, hanging indents, all kinds of indents we'll be able to do here. And I'm just going to click and make it 0.2, and notice it doesn't go to 0.25. So I'm actually going to have to put in 0.25 manually in this little box here. And I have two periods. Let me get rid of that one. And I'll hit OK. And you can see it did the same thing, and it actually moved my little indent marker over a 1/4 inch. Okay. Another thing I'm going to do with this is number 8, and then I'll stop here and then I'll do a part 3. But in number 8, I'm going to put those little dots in here. And the way that works, there's no dots here, there's no leaders. I'm just going to highlight this text. Not this text, I don't want a leader here. But just this text here, I'm going to highlight it, and I'm going to go back to my, and I'll show you a different way now. I could go to tabs and go in here and get this dialog box, or I'll show you a different way. Since there already is a tab set here, I could go right on it and double click, and it brings up that. It's just a kind of a shorter way to get there. And what I'm going to do, like I mentioned, you should select this tab so you know that you're editing that particular tab that's set, because you already have one set at 5 inches. This is the one you need to highlight. Okay, so you highlight that, and it already is a right tab. You're going to go down here and select the second one for leader, which puts a dot leader, and you don't have to hit set anymore. You just hit OK, and there it is. Those are my dot leaders that are in there, and they just help your eye go across to the end of the line. So I'm going to stop here, and then I'll do a third part to finish up.